Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
And gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
There's no crying in baseball.
To infinity and beyond.
Iron Man.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Film Code. It is me, the one and only Phoenix Clouden, joined by, of course, the undisputed code-breaking champion himself, Brandon. How are you, sir?
Man, I am good, Phoenix. It is good to be back. I need, you keep calling me undisputed. I need one of those. I need one of those WWE titles. Hold it up every time that you call me the undisputed. However, I'm not going to be wearing Roman Reigns' title because that title looks terrible.
We need to get a Film Code title.
Yeah,
modified. That'll be nice. Feel free to donate to our show, and we can do that. Thanks. No, it's awesome to be back. We are in the middle of Spooky Month this season, so our next few episodes will be dedicated to the creepy, crawly kind of movies. And we are continuing, because we did Psycho last week. We are continuing with another one this week, a big favorite of yours, and I'm hoping soon to be mine. We are talking The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick, based off the book by Stephen King, starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley, Duvall. I wish I knew the kid's name. Danny. Well, I know the character's name, but not
the character's name is Danny.
Yeah.
Nothing IMDb can't fix.
Right.
I feel like I should know this. Literally, it's mainly just three characters: Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. His name is literally Danny Lloyd.
Danny Lloyd. That's amazing. Okay.
And Scatman Crothers.
Scatman Crothers.
And then also joined by Joe Turkel.
So, this is a movie you specifically requested. This is one that you are super high on. This is my second time officially seeing it. How many times have you seen this movie now?
I had now seen this. I've actually seen this one time, but I'm seeing it for the second time in my life in theaters. As time of this recording, I'm seeing it in theaters in 11 days, and I cannot wait.
Okay, now that is dope. I think I would have liked to have seen this in theaters. I think that would have been a very interesting experience. So I don't know if anyone listening has never seen The Shining. It is a 43 some odd year old movie. It is one of the more celebrated Kubrick films, one of the more celebrated Stephen King adaptations. There was a recent, what would we call it, sequel, reboot?
Soft sequel?
Soft sequel, yeah. Dr. Sleep that came out, what was that, 2017?
2019.
2019. Okay, dope. That
and
you are not.
Spoiler alert, it's not that good.
Yeah. You were not a big fan of. I've yet to see that movie. I don't think I want to see it, really, honestly. No. But, so, The Shining, what particular drew you to this movie for us to discuss this week?
We're talking about spooky season, and for me, just like, okay, so I guess I'm getting my rating out of the way now. After first watch, I started looking back at different scenes. I'm like, okay, I think this might not only be my favorite horror movie, it's already made its way on the top 15 of all time for me. So I'm like, okay, we're talking horror films. I can't let this escape this month, because if we don't record it this month, I doubt we'll ever do it.
Okay. So. Fair. That's probably a good call, because I saw this a while back. I was this is probably last year or so when I finally sat down to watch The Shining, because I was doing another podcast and we were covering Stanley Kubrick films. This was one of them. So I got to see like 6 Stanley Kubrick films right off the bat, which is a great way to, dive into any director's filmography. just get to see their vision. Kubrick has a ton of movies that I really, really love. Really super love. Doctor Strange love, Full Metal Jacket, obviously, Clockwork Orange. These are all great, great films. And then he's got a couple other ones that I'm not super high on, like Spartacus, like 2001. Just not big on. The Shining is somewhere in between for me. At least it was in first viewing. Because I'd always heard about this movie. And to me, you hear Stanley Kubrick's directing a horror movie based on a book by Stephen King. You expect it to be one of the all-time great horror movies. And for a lot of people, it is. For me, I never gathered what I was supposed to be afraid of, right, the whole time. And I think that was the disconnect for me. So I'm curious, what is it for you? Do you know what we're supposed to be afraid of in this movie?
I wouldn't say afraid of anything. For me, it's more of an unnerving movie. There are so many times where like Jack Nicholson will intentionally look at the camera. Like there are so many times where just the score, and it's not leading up to a jump scare, but it's leading to something. It's the slow crawl. It's the never-ending stares from Jack Nicholson when he's just like deadpan staring at something, and it's like slowly zooming in on his face. It's that kind of horror. You yourself are not supposed to be scared of anything. Danny and Shelley, not Shelley, Danny and Wendy. I would call her by her actress name.
Yeah,
Danny and Wendy are supposed to be the ones like dealing with the de-evolution of the great Jack Torrance.
Right. And I think on second viewing, I gathered more of that. Like, to me, what really stood out this second time is the atmosphere that Stanley Kubrick created pretty much throughout this entire film. Like, you got the Overlook Hotel, which is beautiful, like sprawling, grand design. It's got these idyllic, shots around it. But you find out, like, at some point, like, obviously it's got a history of violence, right? There was a murder there. There was, I think it was built on like Native American ground. So like, it's got a history of violence from that. So like, basically what I gathered this time is that the Overlook Hotel itself is the evil entity, and that it is constantly drawing that evil out into the world. And I get that, and I thought that was really unique and interesting. It's just a bunch of other stuff that's in this movie that I feel like I'm not sure we really needed. I'm not sure what it adds. It kind of feels disconnected. Like, in short, like, what I gathered from this movie is there are scenes in it that are some of the best horror work of all time. Like, there's some great scenes in it that have some of the best horror work of all time. And then there's other stuff where I'm like, this feels like it was just here to fill time.
This is where I disagree, because there's a lot of moments where like you just when you're just sitting with Jack Torrance, and you learned so much about his character, like from the past. Like when he's sitting, I guess let's break the seal of spoilers right now. When he's sitting down with Lloyd, when he's sitting down with the best bartender, Lloyd, and he's confessing his sins, you find out, one, he's an alcoholic, right, and two, he's an abuser. So, like, the conversion from him wanting to bash Wendy's brains in, it's not that far-fetched after you realize, like, he beat his child, and he kind of abuses his wife. It's not that far-fetched.
No, it's not. It's not at all. Like, to me, But that to me, like that sounds like a different movie, right? Like it's like I like. It seems like what you're saying is the horror aspect of it is an abusive husband coming out, right?
No. It's the hotel bringing out the worst of Jack Torrance.
Right.
Because there are so many moments where he's slowly devolving. Like when you see him on the typewriter and he just types out all work, no play makes Jackie boy go astray or something.
Jack a dull boy.
Jack a dull boy, yes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that scene was hilarious. All I kept thinking of is the poor intern who had to like type that over and over again in different ways. Like, oh man, that day had to suck. But yeah, I felt bad for that guy. But like, that was a very to me, that was like one of the more shocking, disturbing moments. Is like. That's what this guy's been doing this whole time. He hasn't written like an actual story. He's just written the same thing over and over again.
Basically, from what I hear or from what I see, is what was I going to say? Oh yeah, for me, I thought I'm just gonna be all over the place, but for me, like he basically sold his soul to the devil for a drink. Because he literally he says he's like, I would do anything for a drink right now. What happens? Lloyd shows up with a bunch of alcohol behind him, and he was like basically confessing his sins to the devil, pretty much. And because that's why after he takes his drink. For one, I'm looking at YouTube comments on these scenes because I kept going back and looking at different scenes, mainly the Lloyd scene. And he's talking to Lloyd, and he takes the drink, and he makes that face like right after he takes that first sip. And people are like, "Yeah, this is how addicts are when they get to have the thing that they haven't had in forever," and that's what happened. And then he starts talking to Lloyd. And he's like looking around before he confesses that he hurt Danny. And just like he's basically confessing his sins to the devil. And I think that's the moment where the hotel has him forever.
Yeah. So like after I watched it again, I do what I never do, which is I went and found an explainer video. Because I was still a little bit lost on a few things. And one of the ones I found was about the final shot, right? Final shot of the movie, there's a close-up of a frame of a picture of this party that was in 1921, and you see Jack's face there. And they had two interesting theories about it, right? One was, the reincarnation theory, which is Jack was once there in 1921. He died. You know what I'm saying? And then basically the spirit of those people can't leave that hotel. So they just get reborn, live a life, live to a certain age, and then always come back to the hotel. Like that's one theory. The other theory is the absorption theory, which is like, no, this hotel, no matter who comes to it, will eventually be sucked into it. And like, so like that picture probably wasn't Jack, but now that his soul belongs to the hotel, now he's stuck in that picture. And like basically the idea was like, imagine someone screaming behind that face, that painted on smile that Jack has. I was like, okay, now that's terrifying. like that's actually really kind of scary. So like
since it's kind of up to interpretation. Sorry. For me, I see it as that picture continually adds souls as people die in that hotel.
Yeah.
And Jack just happened to be the next poor soul that was added to it.
Yeah. And I do like that theory because like that's dark, right? And especially when you consider how many pictures were in the hotel. So how often has this happened, right? And then I'm starting to think, like, I think they lied to this man. I think this was a punishment. Like, this was a punishment because he lost his job as a teacher for, assaulting a student. He needed a job. They said, hey, you can have this, but, obviously it's closed. Like, they gave him every excuse as to why there's no one there, why, they can't run it during the winter. And it's like, yeah, it's because they know what happens there. Like, they're sending you literally to hell. like, maybe they know what happens, but, like, yeah, I think they knew what they were doing when they did that.
So, moving on to some behind the scenes. Did you know that Danny Lloyd, the actor of Danny, did you know that the entire time filming this movie, he did not know he was doing a horror film? They kept that truth from him. I have no idea how.
How?
I have no idea, but they kept that from him forever.
So, what did he think?
I have no idea, but it worked.
Okay, that's interesting, I guess. Like, not exactly sure how they sold that to him, but okay.
My guess is like every scene that he's in, he's like, I think he's kind of to himself. Like, because I'm pretty sure in The Shining, at the end, they didn't actually have Jack Nicholson chasing him around with an axe. It was just, they were just, oh, run here. Okay, now run there. You're running through the snow. And just kind of look shocked, like you're getting a birthday present or something. Like when he's making like that close up of his face when he's like, yeah, like that. The only thing I don't understand was when he's walking around doing red rum, red rum. Like, how do you make that? Like, how do you explain that's not a horror?
Yeah, like maybe I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, it's an interesting tactic to use with child actors, because especially because you're like, hey, you don't want to be like, yeah, you're a part of a really scary movie, but we could play it for we could shoot it with you a little bit differently so that the horror aspect of it doesn't really come through for you. You just get to be in a movie, so you don't really get to know exactly what your work contributes to. Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it. I think that's kind of cool. Keeps you innocent until, of course, he watches it back. But yeah, so for me, yeah, like there's a couple of things that I think I'm struggling with, like.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear. Jack
Nicholson is, without a question, right, one of our greatest living actors, right? Easily. But I couldn't help but feel like he was probably the wrong choice for this movie.
Hardcore disagree with you there.
I mean, yeah, I think everyone does. But like my issue with it is Jack just has one of those faces where you're like, yeah, that guy's kind of, you know what I'm saying? He's probably off. So, like, it kind of took me out of the movie, especially, like, the first time I watched it, was because I was like, yeah, of course that guy's going to snap. Like, look at him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it kind of felt a little bit too obvious to have Jack in the role. I'm not sure who else was around at the time, but, like, I don't know. Like, it obviously, when you do have Jack go crazy, Jack kills it, but like it does seem a little weird to cast Jack Nicholson in a role that obviously he can play. It is probably just a little bit too on the nose for me.
This is where I disagree. It's just like, I mean, because you kind of expect him to go a little crazy, but here's the way I see it is like, because the more truth you learn about him, the more you realize, hey, he's not this picture perfect guy. He's a pretty shitty person. And so you're like, okay, now I understand like why Jack Nicholson is the way he is. Like, of course he's going to go crazy. Yeah. He abuses his child. He's an alcoholic. And then he lets the spirit of the hotel take over him.
Yeah, like, to me, like, I guess, okay, so, like, the best way I can explain it is, coming into the movie the way that I came into it was I had always just heard about it, right? Always just heard about it. And, of course, I saw, like, little glimpses here and there of Jack's performance. And I was like, oh, so at some point, right, just from the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, at some point, he's obviously going to go crazy because obviously I've seen, here's Johnny. Like, I obviously know that point in the film. So I was just like, to me, it was like, I always thought that, like, in this movie, he was like a serial killer or something, just a crazy person who happened to show up at the hotel with his family.
And I'm glad that was not the case.
Right. That's what I thought his role was. Like, to come into it and realize, oh no, he's the father and he's, with this family. I was like, well, why would you cast Jack Nicholson? Because I'm like, of course he's crazy. Like, I'm just like, it just felt like typecasting. Like, it felt like typecasting in my mind. And that's why I was like, again, I don't know who else was around, what actors were around at that time that maybe wouldn't have been as much on the nose as far as casting goes. But, I mean, I can't deny he did a great job. It's Jack Nicholson, and, what I'm saying, Jack Nicholson going crazy is one of his more famous tropes. It just felt kind of like spot on in that regard. And again, I'm probably alone in that opinion.
You are very much alone in that. Yeah, no, just this movie just in every way worked for me. Just there's like even I guess Danny's quote powers of The Shining, it works. Because I mean it prepares us for what's to happen sometimes.
Okay. Remember earlier when I said that there felt like some scenes that were kind of fill-in? Those all involve Danny. Because I don't... And maybe you can help me. What exactly is Shining? I don't get it.
It's explained more in Dr. Sleep. It's just... You're able to communicate with others who have that. And you're able to not exactly see the future, but kind of see what's going on elsewhere. Because that's why, like, with the Red Drum, a murder happened. He saw that when he typed out Red Rum, it was a murder because Jack Torrance killed Halloran. And so he saw it happening, so that's why he wrote it. It's not, oh my God, look, I think there's a murder happening. No, he saw it from his perspective.
Right.
It's explained more in Dr. Sleep, and it actually makes a lot of sense.
I feel like it's probably even better, sorry, I was about to say more.
It's better explained in Dr. Sleep for sure, because even though they call it The Shining, it's not focused on Danny's powers.
Right. And I think that's what kind of like threw it off for me, because I was just like, I know that this aspect matters to some degree, but it wasn't coming through for me. Like, on either viewing, I was just like, so what does this have to do with anything? Like the one part that I got was like, he could not really communicate, I guess, but like he could see the dead.
Everybody could see the dead in that hotel.
Yeah, so like I guess he just knew they were always there. I don't know. It was I feel like it's better explained in the book, like even more so than it is in the reboot.
Surprisingly, the book is actually quite a bit different than the movie. I mean, first of all, Jack uses a bat instead of an axe, and he kills himself with the bat towards the end of the film. The maze doesn't exist. The shrubs are there, but they're animated shrubs of animals.
Okay.
In the book. It's weird, but just there's a lot different in the book, and Stephen King didn't like the film adaptation.
Yeah, I
But
heard that.
honestly, I prefer the movie over the book here.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I again, I think there are absolutely scenes of this movie that work, like that are top tier horror. Like you could put it up against practically any movie, and I'd be like, yeah, that scene, hell yeah! Like the scene where he sees the twins die, dude, that was terrifying. Like I was like, dude, that's insane. The scene like of the blood pouring in through the
elevator.
through the hallway. I was like, oh my god, dude, that's sick. The
It took them 6 months to film that scene.
That's crazy. Like, no wonder they use it like so often. But the scene of the lady in the tub who was like who was dead, coming back to life or whatever. Like, dude, like horrifying. Like these things are terrifying. No question about it. It's just I never understood how it all fit together. Yeah.
Correction, before we get to that, it took a year.
Oh, dang.
Jesus Christ.
For that one scene.
Kubrick was annoyed with the consistency of the fake blood, which kept messing up the electronic configurations of the elevator.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think as a collection of scenes, right? Some of the best horror ever done. Yeah, I just can't understand how everything else tied into it. And that's my disconnect with it.
It's the hotel. It's literally just the hotel slowly, because you spend the least amount of time with Jack Torrance.
Right.
Yeah, you get a lot of scenes with him, but you spend more time with Shelley, God damn it, Wendy, and Danny.
Right. And that's another thing. Like, why doesn't the hotel have the effect on Wendy that it has on Jack?
Because Jack is the one dealing with the most issues. He's the one who is off by himself constantly. He's neglecting the wife and kid. He's out just writing his book. And in his free time, he just wants to drink. And he wants to just go crazy. And that's what happens. He slowly goes insane. The hotel gets to him. And boom, he snaps. And by the end of the film, it's just the hotel controlling him. There's no longer Jack. Because like his literally Jack's final lines in the film is just him murmuring and yelling.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Jack Torrance. That's the hotel.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Shelley Duvall. I love Shelley Duvall in this movie. Like,
she's incredible.
I think she's absolutely amazing. And we know, like, you know, Kubrick was especially like, you know, I don't know what kind of performance he wanted. I don't know what kind she was giving originally, but he kept pushing to get this kind of performance out of her. And she brought it, man. Like, you know, it worked because she's the one character in this movie who I'm like, I absolutely sympathize with. And I think I have to see what else she did after this or before this, but to me, this is one of her best performances.
100%. He got like the best he could out of her.
Yeah.
Like there are so many times they reshot.
Yeah.
And
like,
it made it so much more for the better.
Absolutely. Because what you get is a woman who's pretty confident, pretty comfortable in her relationship. You could tell that she's still a little bit shaky with, you know, Jack's drinking and his relationship to their son. But she loves him. She's devoted to this man. And she goes from that level of, you know, comfort to completely like unsure of what's happening, right? You know what I'm saying? And the loss of control that she feels for the situation that she's in. And I think she plays it to such an extreme from where she started from, that it just works so incredibly well. Because, I mean, anybody who's in a situation where you you're isolated from the world and your partner goes insane. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot to deal with. And I think she did an amazing job handling it.
100%. And it's just that's what makes this film so great is everybody gives their all.
Yeah.
And me personally, I just see no flaws in this movie.
No flaws.
No flaws. Because it's just a perfectly made film.
Really?
Dude, you got to see the behind the scenes because, like, you got to even see like Jack Nicholson getting ready for a scene, like mainly the axe scene. He is like ready to freaking murder somebody for real.
I mean, maybe I don't know, like, cause I understand the whole movie. Like, I get what happens to Jack, what happens to this family, why it happens to them. I don't know. I feel like it could have used a better foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's there, and I see it, and I see the connection that it made with a lot of people. I wish it all worked fluidly, a little bit more fluidly than it does. And I mean, it's still a great movie. Still a great movie. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I'm just not connecting with something within it.
I don't understand how. I truly don't understand how.
Yeah, I don't, that we'll leave that up for the historians or something. I have no idea, but like, it's just not. I couldn't put it up there with Psycho. You know what I'm saying? I
easily could.
I couldn't put it up there with Psycho. I couldn't really put it up there with, like, you know, like one of Nightmare on Elm Street 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good, and I get it, and I see it. I don't know, like, so much of it. I would argue, like, so much of the first hour, I'm not sure I need. Like I'm not sure I need that whole hour.
The first hour establishes everything.
Yeah, I probably need like maybe 20, 25 minutes of it, and then I don't need the rest. and then we can go into everything else from that first hour. But yeah, I just don't know how much of that we actually need. It's probably too much.
I disagree.
I would love to see an updated version of this movie.
I would not. I feel like there's you wouldn't get anywhere near what you had with this film if they redid it. They wouldn't cast good. I don't think they'd cast as near as good actors and actresses as we got for this film. Well, some of the shots would be not as good. You'd be dealing with a lot of green screen, blue screen, CGI. Just, no thanks.
I don't know. All right, official ratings. What are we giving The Shining?
Easy 5 stars. Like I said, it's a flawless movie for me.
I wish I could be there with you. I'm gonna ride a solid 3.5 for The Shining.
Yeah, at least bump it up to a 4. Because originally you gave it a 3.5, and then I explained it more. At least bump it up to a 4.
Okay, like a very, very soft 4. Like more like a 3.89. But like, yeah, that we'll go there. Yeah, it's cool. I just wish I got more out of it. That's the only thing about it. All right, so let's move on to what's good. What's good? Brandon, what have you seen, man? I know you've seen a lot. What has been good for you?
Yeah. Okay, so in the honor of Spooky Month, I have went through and started watching a lot of like horror films that I haven't seen before, and my goal is to try and watch 31 of them before this month is over. So I sat down and watched Pearl. I sat down and watched so many other movies, but like so far, this is number one on my list, and I gotta go with this one. I watched X and Pearl, but Pearl just like to the moon, send me a goth to the moon. She is like such a fantastic actress. I don't I don't like Infinity Pool, and I'm not blaming Mia Goth for that because like she worked with what she got. Oh my god, she like as the main actress of this movie. Oh my gosh, she's so good, and I don't understand how she's able to play the main character in X and Pearl and play two separate characters, right. And you were like, okay, these are two completely different characters, and you believe it. Yeah. I don't understand it. No, she is so good in Pearl. Like that final shot, man, when she's like, the husband, oh, I knew you'd come home, and it's just her smiling and just, I'm like, oh my god. and then you realize that he's the husband who supports her murder spree and participates in like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Pearl was fantastic. Like truly fantastic. Is one of the darkest movies I think I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me how much better it is from X. Like a lot of people like X, and X is fine, but I'm just like what you get in Pearl is like insane. Like it's really insane. And Mia Goth, bro, her performance is like she seriously, like yeah, like you said, man, put her to the moon, dude. She's ridiculously good.
Like I love X, like, but it's nowhere near a 5-star for me. Mm-hmm. Pearl is almost at that point. I gave it a 4.5 star. Yeah, because it's just such a good movie, and I do not understand it.
Yeah, that movie's crazy. So for me, what I'm going to recommend, I don't know how many people haven't seen this movie yet, but I went on like a weird Saoirse Ronan kick recently. So I had to go back and revisit one of my favorites, and that is 2017's Lady Bird. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. It's ridiculous. See that? Yeah, like it's funny because I spent like 2 hours of this movie hating it, and then like the final 5 minutes, I was like, "Damn, this movie's good!" like it was amazing how it hit me like that. So I highly recommend the movie. It's such a great exploration of a writer, and and especially me, and coming of age as a writer, which I think is a story that is rarely told. And then you like coming of age as a female writer on top of that. So I adore this movie. Saoirse Ronan gives one of her best performances ever. She should be an Oscar winner at this point in my mind, particularly for this film. So that's Lady Bird from me, Pearl from Brandon. Excellent choices, two very vastly different female-led movies, but check them out. Let us know what you guys think. All right, so
we don't have a code word this week.
We're gonna skip.
We do have a code word this week, but we don't have our full crew.
You're right. We're gonna skip the code word this week. We're gonna get up out of here. Brandon, let everybody know where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, you guys can find me at FANTASMIC ears over on Twitter and X and Letterboxd. Go check out what I'm watching, and yeah, thank you guys again for listening.
I'm never calling it that. You guys can find me on Twitter at IamHOReviews1, that's the number 1, and on Letterboxd under PA Clouden. And as always, guys, please follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at FilmCodePod. We will see you guys next week. We are out of here. Peace.